Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jet. Welcome back to episode of Inside Lines. Hope you're having a wonderful day. As you can see, change a little bit, the studio a little bit. So we got the flag up, got the German flag up. So yes, things now look a bit better in terms of the studio behind me. But yeah, it's been a while since we've last done one of these videos. I think it's been a month, but let's not waste any time and jump right into it. We're going to first start off, of course, with the lawsuit. Now, 2311 and Front Row, they have refiled their lawsuit to try and get a preliminary injunction to become charter teams once again, but still go through the lawsuit with NASCAR over monopoly of NASCAR being a monopoly and the antitrust lawsuit and all that stuff. Well, NASCAR has responded the last day. This is the last day that they had to do this, to dismiss the lawsuit. They filed to try and dismiss this lawsuit. Now, NASCAR responded to this in a very short page. It wasn't a large response, but they basically summed it up in 4 reasons. Let's go over them. The first one says, quote, most of plaintiffs' claims are time barred by the statute of limitations and latches because they concern conduct that occurred more than 4 years ago. In particular, plaintiffs' allegations pertaining to 1, the 2018 acquisition of ARCA, the 2019 acquisition of ISC, as well as the adoption of the next-gen car requirements and NASCAR's exclusivity arrangements with racetracks, with only specific factual allegation predating October 2020. And number 5, the 2016 charter provisions are all barred by the 4-year statute of limitations and the doctrine of latches. So basically what NASCAR is saying in that section there is that if they were acting, that being 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, if they were truly acting in good faith, they would have brought this up a while back, especially Front Row Motorsports, who were a part of NASCAR in this whole charter agreement from the very beginning. So when NASCAR is saying that if they were in good faith, they would have done this way back when and not now. The second issue they brought up is, quote, plaintiffs lack antitrust standing to sustain their challenges to the 2025 charter's release of claims and non-compete provisions, which are their only claims that arguably fall within the statute of limitations because plaintiffs did not sign the charters and their failure to secure preferred contractual terms is not antitrust injury. Again, NASCAR is going back to the old statute of limitations by saying that, you know, with 2311 and Front Row's really only claim, at least to NASCAR's standpoint, only claim is that the issue is the whole antitrust portion of the 2025 charter agreement is that you can't sue NASCAR. Again, falls into that whole logic of if y'all had an issue with this, you would have brought this up from the very beginning, not wait till now, and that you not signing the charter agreement, that is up to you. That is your choice, your decision. That's why they include at the end there, their failure to secure preferred contractual terms is not antitrust injury. Basically what they're saying is that you chose, you guys, 2011 Front Row, y'all chose not to sign it. So whatever happens to you is your fault. It's not our fault, it's your fault. The third section reads, quote, plaintiff's proposed market definition is legally deficient because it analyzes the market post-investment rather than pre-investment. Under settled law, a plaintiff cannot establish a relevant market by claiming to be quote unquote locked in a market that it entered knowing in advance that doing so would entail locking costs and other economic risks. So what that means, that section means, is saying you knew what the terms were. You knew early on but that if you sign this, you can't sue us. Basically what NASCAR is saying is that 2311 Front Row, we're looking at after the matter of the fact when they're already in it rather than looking at before the what happens leading up to get into this new agreement. You look at the previous charters agreements that NASCAR said that this clause was already in there in the past 2 charter agreements in 2016 and in 2020. Again, you cannot be mad at something where you signed up knowing that this can happen. And you Front Row signed the last 2 charter agreements. 2011 signed last year's charter agreements or the previous charter agreements. So what NASCAR again is saying in total is that number 1, you knew this was going to happen. You knew that, you know, going into this, that you could not sue NASCAR. Number 1, that's what you knew. And that number 2, if you did have an issue with it, y'all would have brought this up a long time ago from the very beginning, not now, nearly 10 years after the original charter agreements were posted. And finally, quote, plaintiffs have not alleged any facts demonstrating exclusionary conduct by NASCAR for 2 reasons. First, NASCAR did not refuse to deal with plaintiffs. Rather, NASCAR proposed contractual terms which plaintiffs rejected and which are no longer available. Second, plaintiffs have no pleaded any facts plausibly demonstrating that either of the 2 challenged charter provisions reduces competition. So the part that I feel like very interesting was the NASCAR did not refuse to deal with the plaintiffs. And that is kind of true. I mean, NASCAR, they didn't deal with the plaintiffs together. As we know, that NASCAR, instead of having this whole NASCAR RTA meeting, NASCAR just went to other teams individually to try and kind of break down their power. But I also do have to say that, weren't you, again, we go back to what happened at Atlanta when y'all basically gave the teams a take it or leave it like charter agreement as, hey, if you sign this, then fine. If you don't sign this, you're out. Like, no ifs or buts about it. You kind of gave them no choice. And as we heard Richard Childress say, he doesn't want to lose his charters. He spent tens of millions of dollars on it. He doesn't want to lose it. And he felt forced to do it. So while yes, NASCAR did technically deal this charter negotiations with the plaintiffs and the other race teams, at the same time, they didn't if you look at how they went about it. And that also, basically to sum it up, that the reason why 2011 Front Row are going through this lawsuit, according to NASCAR, is that they're just not happy with what they were received, and they're not happy that they're not going to be part of the 2025 charter agreements. That's the only reason why they're going through the lawsuit, at least according to NASCAR, that they weren't happy with what it said and that they're no longer in the charter agreement for next year. That's why they filed the lawsuit. That's why they're upset. Again, this is what NASCAR is saying. Another part that's interesting is the next part, or should say another part of NASCAR's filing, was the charters regarding Stewart-Haas Racing. Remember, SHR, they sold 3 charters. One, I believe, went to Trackhouse. One was supposed to go to 2011, and the other was supposed to go to Front Row. Well, 2 of them are in limbo. And NASCAR says that they will not confirm, they will not consider the confirmation of the charter transfer from Stewart-Haas Racing to 2011 and Front Row. Now, NASCAR's reasoning for that is because that 2011 and Front Row, they both knew and agreed that like purchasing these charters, meaning they have to be part of the charter agreement, meaning they have to basically get rid of the lawsuit, all that stuff, and that these charters contained a release provision, and that needed to be accepted for any transfer request to be considered. So again, this is going back to that 2011 Front Row had to be part of the 2025 charter agreement and get rid of the lawsuit in order for NASCAR to accept these charter transfers, which is why at the moment these transfers are in limbo and still technically under still SHR, but I guess now Haas factory team. Another part that NASCAR then brings up, which is very interesting, is, quote, plaintiffs concede that charters are worth millions of dollars and NASCAR increased the revenues available to teams. If NASCAR truly had market power, it would be decreasing its demand for plaintiff services and lowering the amount by which it compensates them. And again, on one side, yes, I understand that. If you look at the new TV deal, the teams are going to get a significant amount of a pay up in terms of money. They're going to get more money in this new agreement than they would in the previous one. So while yes, that is true, you do have to also mention the other things is that, yeah, they're getting a bump, but to compare what NASCAR is getting, it's like, at least from what the teams are saying, it's like this. The teams are getting like basically chump change. NASCAR is getting everything else, with them having all the racetracks, with the next gen car basically still being NASCAR's property and the vendors and everything like that, the exclusivity of racetracks. So yes, you can make that argument, but again, when you look at the other things that NASCAR has done, it kind of leaves you going, it's like, yeah, it's kind of true. Yeah, you did give them more money, but you are also taking a lot away from them. It's like, yeah, we'll give you a little bit, but we're also going to take a lot away from you in terms of other things that may not be direct payments, but it does lessen the amount of money that the teams could possibly make and just keep the pockets of NASCAR, or keep the money under NASCAR's pockets. Now, NASCAR also makes a big allegation that the co-owner of 2311, Curtis Polk, helped devise strategies that included boycotts and potential boycotts of NASCAR events, negative media campaign to affect the media rights negotiations, and threats, coercion to other team owners to quote unquote not break ranks. Again, kind of sounds familiar, right? With this whole, try and boycott and this whole things like that. Again, I look back to what NASCAR did to the teams by giving them an ultimatum, either take it or no charters, kind of threatening, So again, what NASCAR is saying, while they do make some points, I will say that if you look at this lawsuit, they do make some points. At the same time, it's very hypocritical when you look at how the allegations and their claims they're making towards 2311 Front Row, they've also done to them. So again, it's a response that, yes, the points they're making are true, but at the same time, in my eyes, it is very, very hypocritical what NASCAR is doing here by saying like things like this, like they're threatening us. They're trying to create threats where you did threaten them by giving them an ultimatum by saying take it or leave it. So again, if you can dish it, you got to take it. You can't just dish it and then complain when someone does it back to you. And I highly doubt it was just Curtis Polk. That's something I just don't believe. I highly doubt that a new person that just entered into NASCAR and all of a sudden basically was the one that was kind of holding all the teams back and saying, you follow me, we're in this together, let's fight, let's book this and this and this. I highly doubt that. While I do think 2011 has been obviously the most outspoken, when you hear what the other charter or the other teams are saying, with Rick Hendrick saying he didn't want to deal with it anymore, he was tired of it. Richard Childress saying that he was forced into it. Saying communism, that this was a whole communist type of situation that NASCAR is pulling. This makes me feel like that it wasn't just Curtis Polk that was doing this. I feel like this was an organized effort from all the race teams. It's just that when it came down to the 11th hour, the teams just say, listen, I spent so much money. I don't want to give this up. I don't want to give up all the money that I spent, these tens of millions of dollars. I don't want to give it up. They were forced to sign. So I don't agree with that at all, that NASCAR saying that Curtis Polk created some type of pack between teams to basically try and eliminate or try and take out NASCAR and make them the enemy. I don't think that was the case. I think it was an organized effort from all teams to understand that there is a quote unquote common enemy, that being NASCAR. So yeah, basically to end it up with this lawsuit, obviously I think we'll wait until December 16th, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the next time we'll get an update on these charters. Obviously the end result is the same. In order for 2311 and Front Row to get charters or to become charter teams once again, two things has to happen. Number one, they have to win their preliminary injunction, which basically will force NASCAR to have to make them charter teams. Or number two, basically they have to sign charter agreements to transfer charters. That is the only way. Now, it is also interesting, speaking of SHR, that they recently submitted a request for a charter transfer to Front Row, not 2311. Remember, 2311 and Front Row were each supposed to get one charter from Stewart-Haas Racing. Well, SHR now, they're trying to change it so that only the charters are going to Front Row. Very interesting, this whole change of how SHR is dealing with all this transfer talk. But obviously we'll get more information as we get later on to the weeks. Any updates, we'll let you know as soon as possible. And finally, Kyle Larson may have revealed that changes could be on the horizon with the NASCAR playoff format. He said this in an interview just a few days ago, saying, quote, "I'm excited about next year, and hopefully we can continue to evolve and get stronger as a team, win some more races, lead some more laps, and who knows what the new format will be, so maybe it will benefit us somehow." So yeah, let's back up a little bit. Now, this could be taken in one of many ways. As we know that we're starting to see a pattern with NASCAR. Change comes if someone exposes the format. 2013, when Jimmy Johnson basically exposed the format, winning his 6 or 7 titles with this 10 race chase era. You look at even back towards the Winston Cup era, where basically drivers just found a way just to be consistent, like especially with Matt Kenseth winning just one race and leading the championship for, I believe, 33 of the 36 races to win the title. They had to change it again. And it looks like now with Logano, with how he won the title, NASCAR, I think, understands that, okay, we got to change something up. The question is, though, what will they do? Let's be realistic. Steve O'Donnell said, we're not getting away from playoffs. That means more than likely, not like we're getting away from playoffs and maybe go back to the chase era. I think more than likely we're still going to have this whole elimination format. The two biggest things I want change. Two. Number one, get rid of the win and you're in and have the championship race be at the very least a 3-race battle and not 1. That's the main thing. I already posted a video about why the NASCAR playoffs suck now. I'm not going to explain into that, any deep in this episode. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up in the top right of your screen. You can click that card and watch the full video yourself. I explain why the NASCAR playoffs suck and what I would do to change it. So I'm not going to dive in deep into this episode about it, but I'm just want to say, let's pause a little bit. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they could be changing the playoff format. We're saved. No, let's be real here. Let's be realistic. Let's keep our expectations down low. More than likely, they may just, honestly, knowing NASCAR, they're probably going to add some type of provision or some type of rule change that just makes the playoffs even worse than what it is. Who knows? But yeah, very curious to hear your thoughts on what NASCAR could possibly change. Also, your thoughts on the lawsuit. But until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. And I'll see y'all next time. You can't tell me now.
now by time. Do you know how many lines I done pent down, vibes I done sent out? But we ain't hit the dig. I'll up the market till they come red carpet the kids. Success still the target. Soon I'll be crossing that bridge, but can't bring everybody with me. Family only. I got some people think I owe a favor, barely know me. That's why my focus on the road. It's all I know. I see them sticking close to play the wall.